Well,
Yeah,
like as I said, I really appreciate you taking the time today because
no
I know
problem.
this character of Arishem, not someone I'm a big comic book fan, not someone I'm overly familiar with. I think like a
Yeah,
lot of fans, so it's
yes.
quite interesting to see the character in the films. And I guess I wanted to start by asking for you, how aware were you of these eternal characters and Celestials and Arishem before you actually boarded this project?
It's a great question. I was aware only because my childhood. I put a post on. Uh, I'm a Facebook skimmer. Sometimes I'll go and blast, and then I'll go away for a while. My mother's like knows more about me than and everybody else than I do. She spends hours a day. But I posted something about my childhood, and it's exciting to be in different projects and stuff like that. And I wanted to sort of give a shout out to my past, to my best friend, since grade school. I think probably, gosh, second grade, I guess. David Hayes was my still my good friend to this day, and we used to collect comics, and we're into Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, and we're into Marvel comics and DC as well. We're into everything, and I got to kind of get into GI Joe a little bit, and but most of my favorite stuff was, funny enough, was those dark vampire comics, and then I discovered the Marvel universe because my friend David had a part-time job on Saturdays in the comic book section, which was down this Sandy's bookstore. We called the bookstore in my hometown of Peterborough, Ontario, in Canada, and used to go into the store and smell that paper and ink smell. That sort of musty bit of must, but it's just that wonderful. It's like same idea is that pipe tobacco smell mixed with old paper. This wonderful like aroma that comes from that. If I don't know if you understand that,
Yeah, I completely know what you're saying.
but you get like the old bookstores in London when we visit. When we used to travel. Oh my God, I used to travel to London all the time. I have a lot of relatives over there, and you find these old bookstores, and she's, oh my God, smell that, and the history and so down the stairs, these creaky wooden stairs, was this like, it's probably, when I think about it, we were small, so it wouldn't be larger than the studio here, obviously, but it was packed with comics, and I can't imagine what was there. If I think back, it's probably worth a fortune what was there. And Dave was responsible for organizing the comics and everything else and putting them on sale and selling them. So that's the comic book section was all downstairs. That's where all the famous Monster Film and magazine were, all the classic comics that came out, all the Marvel, all the DC. And he would, and it would be stacks of stuff. We'd just go through them, and I'd hang out with him on a Saturday and for hours and just reading comics. And I was introduced to Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and other artists as a child. How old were we then? Probably, well, 12, 13,
Hmm.
11, 12, 13. Dave had a part time. He was like 13 or 14. So in that area, we used to just hang out and talk. And he introduced me to characters, introduced me to stories and that. And um, I remember the Eternals, vaguely, like a lot of people. And I remember that sort of, being in the background. But I was into a lot of Avengers and the Fantastic Four and things like that. But I was aware of the Eternals, and I was certainly well aware of Jack Kirby. And so I kind of posted about my, thank you, Jack Kirby, wherever you are, and to my friend David Hayes. And to think that I'm sitting in a movie theater in Camarillo, California, of all places, being born in Canada, uh, and watching, hearing this voice on the screen, and it's like, wow, that's pretty wild. I mean, there's been a couple of movies I've been in the Ratchet and Clank series, and we had a great time doing the film. But this, because it's the MCU, because it's my childhood, and we're familiar, or roughly familiar with these characters that have been around for a long time and created by these gentlemen. Um, it does make it lands a bit more, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, and I mean, talk about a comic book fan's dream come true. Like as you said,
Oh,
getting to join the MCU and something that
yeah,
something I was curious about after hearing your performance, because you are such a prolific voice actor, and I think it's great that Marvel Studios actually brought in a voice actor for a character like this one. But where did you find that voice for Arishem, and what was that collaboration like with obviously Marvel Studios, and I'm imagining the director Chloe as well?
Yeah, she is she's a sweetheart. I watched Nomadland. I didn't know who Chloe was, and then I saw Nomadland, and then of course, who is she? What and I became familiar with what she's doing, and it was bizarre because I'm like, when I found out who was directing, and I went, wow! I actually got to congratulate her the day after she won the Oscar, and we had a session. I said, hey, by the way, congratulations! It's like you're an Oscar-winning director, and she. It's different pacing for a Marvel movie, as you know. Have you seen the film? You've seen the film?
Yes.
If you notice, it's different pacing, right? It's different pacing, and if you've seen the movie Nomadland, which is it's an amazing take on America, and sort of where we are and why. But she lets and Frances McDormand, my God, I admire that woman. She's amazing. But she lets things breathe. Like things are very expansive and large and sweeping. The way that the director of photography and the way it was shot and the way she doesn't rush anything. She lets the story sort of unfold. Now, some people in our 10-second attention span these days kind of like okay, but it's like a novel, and she has this style, and it was like, wow, this is different. But I didn't. Time went by, and it was a 2.5-hour movie, right? Yeah. I think it is, and I didn't really realize that. Oh my God, we got to get home. The dog hasn't eaten yet. And my parents, and senior citizens, they went to see it, and they forgot, like they didn't realize they weren't like in a hurry to get out. So it's hitting a mark. Some people might not like it because it's not quick enough, but she just has this wonderful way of telling these stories and has this vision. And when she directs, at least with me, I'm just my experience. She likes to, which I love. She poses questions. Well, how, what if, and so I don't know. It's just a style that she has, and of my limited experience, with Oscar-winning directors, it was really kind of amazing. It's like, oh, and because the pacing and the way, it's you have to walk a real fine line with a character like this, and when he's angry, there's no shouting. I always tell people it's an old acting class thing many years ago, and a really great teacher, and it was if you take, for example, Alan Rickman, who was his name, good friend, gosh, I'm drawing a blank here, but Alan Rickman used to sewer. And so when he was mad or angry, it was much more interesting to wonder what's going on in his head, because he seems like he's calm, but he's not. He's I will take you and I will tear you apart if I can. It was this sort of seething, skewering, instead of yelling and screaming, which is like, okay, that's one note, but it's much more interesting when you kind of play. You're not quite sure, and so with this character, you had to be real careful that you just kind of keep him keen, but just ever so slightly adjust when there's possible anger or feeling. There's little adjustments in there, and she and the team really helped me find those. And pacing was very important, but it was just such a great experience all around. I mean, my God, it's kind of cool. I kept thinking, are you sure you want me? Am I? So you're you all got, I'm the guy. Okay.
But it is, as I said, it's an incredible role. And of course, that fantastic scene that you get, I think, right in the middle of the film with Arishem and Cersei, when you obviously drop in a lot of information about the history of the MCU. Really fascinating stuff, especially for fans like myself and fans everywhere. So what was that like? Because that's a very dialogue heavy scene, and you're having to impart a lot of information in quite a short space of time as well, really.
Yeah, that was the thing. It's you know, Dr. Exposition, you know, here we go. But we have to explain, like, it is like I said, it's pacing and yeah, storytelling in a way. It's really like that fine line. And I have to say, if I was asked to do this when I was younger, there's no way. There's no way. I think honestly, having you know, some time on the planet when you're older, there are certain things and certain elements you can bring from your humanity, just, you know, just from traveling or reading and being on the planet a little longer. There's certain things you can call upon that you couldn't call upon when you're 18 or 19, because you have no, you know, have no idea, you don't have a reference. But because you have, you know, you have some life on the planet, you can sort of call on different experiences, and that colors your performance, or, you know. But yeah, I'm babbling. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to. What was the question? Yeah. Yeah. It just had to. You had to be careful, because again, it's about pacing, and you're telling a story, and it's there's some history here, and you know, and you have to keep the character. It's just walking that fine line, and you know, the director and the people on the line. We did it. You know, I did one of the sessions here, and a couple in our old house, an old studio. Yeah, it's a collaborative effort, and you know, they kept me on the straight and narrow, as it were.
Well, he is Arishem. We don't spend a huge amount of time with him, but he is such an interesting character. And then, of course, the ramifications at the end of the film, when we see all the different Eternals, they have this big conflict about whether they should let Earth be destroyed, or obviously whether they should stop the birth.
No, we can't do spoilers, right? We shouldn't do spoilers for those who haven't seen it.
Oh, I'll put spoiler warnings, and it will. I'll hold on.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to say anything wrong.
Panic. You're not going to ruin the film for anyone. Don't worry.
Okay. Good.
But of course, as I said, the end of the film, it's all about that conflict, and
Yeah.
you know, some believing that Arishem is right, others believing he's wrong. But now you've got to know this character. How do you feel about him walking away from the project? Do you view him as a villain? Do you view him as maybe he is a hero giving birth to these different worlds? Or what's your take on that?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you know, even gods make mistakes, and nobody's perfect. I mean, if you boil it all down, yeah, even the creator of worlds, it's like, oops, maybe shouldn't have done that. Kind of wish I could take that back, but I can't. You know, and there's so many parallels and read between the lines things going on, which I love that stuff, because it gets you thinking. Because when you leave the movie theater, if you leave going, well, okay, so, you know, wow, then it's done its job. I always remember this movie when I was a kid, the final countdown. It was about the USS Nimitz took off from San Diego. They hit a time storm, and they went back to 1945, and they're flying their F-18s around, and there's all of a sudden there's some, you know, Japanese Zeros flying by, and they're like, and so a movie like that, you know, it ends, and you walk out of the theater and go, well, okay, so like, if you're still thinking about it, then that's what a movie's supposed to do, leave you with some thoughts. And you know, look, in the big scheme of things, we got to take care of the planet, and so many people just don't give a shit. You know, it's mind blowing to me. You know, we have the technology and capability, but this is, you know, coming up. We're kind of heading into what was is your history in the United Kingdom, as the Industrial Revolution, and the movie Tess of the Dubervilles and all that. You know, that was and industry. That's where the birth of it happened. You know, and the war and the industry. But now we're like, oh boy, we didn't. So what we're coming into in the next however many you know, years is the next industrial revolution on a grand scale. And you know, you're talking about, you know, famine and, you know, big time stuff. When you think of some of the stuff that happened back in those days, you know, people lost their jobs, you know, but we're much more capable of, you know, helping. So that's one of the things that, you know, these movies is you're very cognizant of how precious and how precarious this planet is. And you know, hate him or love him, but Shatner goes up with Bezos and looks down and goes, oh my God, you know. And what Shatner says when they interviewed him after his flight up into the edge in space there, he said, is basically life, death. That's it. This thin layer. And so a movie like this makes you think, my God, we are, it's a we live on we're a thin line, and so it's a she just Chloe and the team, the writers, they've captured all these things, and it makes you think. And when you talk about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, in particular Stan Lee, he was always a champion of those who were different, or those who didn't. He was always that way, and he will continue to bring that feeling to the stories, championing the cause of those folks are on a little different than, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's everything Stan hoped for, and that continues. And I think we have some great people looking after that Marvel universe to make sure that those thoughts and that through line and what Jack and Stan were trying to do continues. It's very important, because we are a interesting bunch, humanity, and films like that make you think, like, oh boy, we're not doing so good. We have the capability, but I always thought we do need somebody to come down from somewhere else and save us from ourselves. Wearing a cape or whatever. But we're all flawed, and that's back to your question. We're all flawed. Humans are flawed, and even the gods are flawed, and which is I don't. It's amazing storytelling. They've done a good job.
Yeah, I love the film. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
talking of Arishem, at the end, on spoilers, at the end of the film, he does come down to Earth. He takes Cersei and Kingo and Fastos, and obviously big cliffhanger, setting the stage for some future stories. And I know you probably can't tell me if you know when and where you're coming back, but do you have any thoughts where you'd like to see his story go, do you think?
Oh, gee. I have no idea. I'm still enjoying my 15 minutes of fame here. But yeah, I mean, sure. You never know. I mean, I have no idea. It's so secretive, So, and even if I was, I couldn't say anything anyway. But it certainly leaves it all open, and there's all kinds of little Easter eggs and mentions. They talk about, some of the other hero groups, which is kind of the humor. It's what I liked about it. You're too young, but when I grew up with the original Spider-Man, Paul Soles, who we lost this past year, voiced us. And even in the writing, even in Spider-Man comics, there was this dry sense of humor that Peter Parker, Spider-Man, had. He was slow to slide in. And I'd laugh out loud. I'd LOL back in the day when I was reading the comics, and that humor is still there. And she threw that in, as you know, so some of the characters, there's some like very human elements there. When we're up against the end of the world, what helps us, comedy's there. There's a little, because we're human, we got to diffuse the situation, and this is serious, but it's a little sly remark, kind of, they're human. A little laugh. So it's great. That is also continued on through the Marvel universe. So there's these the humor is still there, and I go, yes.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I can only imagine for you as an actor how it must feel to, you're playing essentially the god of the MCU. The stage has been set for Arishem to potentially be the next Thanos, as like a big bad of all these films. And you could be facing off with Harry Styles down the line. So what a trifecta of possibilities.
I know there was 6 people in the theater, and yeah, I mean, it's like as soon as Uncle Harry, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing about, look, Disney is an incredible company, because the opportunity, the stories, and the worlds, and this could go on forever because it's so deep. It's so amazing. There's so many ways this could go. It's an endless pit of stories and ideas and characters, and it's, I don't know, it's, you think you keep mining this forever. It's tons. So it's great. Whatever they want to take it. There's no shortage of material. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about. And I know recently in interviews, some of the cast talked about a different post-credit scene where they were communicating with Arishem. So do you recall doing any additional dialogue that didn't make it into the film for deleted scenes like that? Or were you brought in at a point where it was quite specific?
Yeah, yeah, it was very, it was specific. We worked it a few times and eventually found the voice and where and the voice placement and that. And but yeah, it by that time, it had been sussed out. And then and still they could change things up until the last minute with the dialogue and that, because the film was mostly was all in the can by that time, by the time I was running. And yeah, it was just it was daunting, to tell you the truth, because you're working with that caliber of people, and you want to make sure that you come in and you're already at the high level. So but I loved it. Always loved that. I love that pressure. I love that. That's the kind of stress I love. It's not a bad stress at all. It's like, let's go, let's play, let's do this. And that's how I felt. I wasn't as nervous a bit, but once you start collaborating and it just makes it, she makes it so easy. Yeah, it just felt comfortable.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And as I mentioned when we started talking, you do have so many roles to your name, whether it's Clank or Megatron, Optimus Prime,
I
Professor
still have
X.
I have all the toys here. I have it. I have Clank is on the thing here. Look at there. There's Clank. He's right here in my studio. So every time I come in and record and work, I got surrounded by my friends. And I actually bought a print this morning, a Ratchet and Clank for Rift Apart. I bought a print because so I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. It's just this is my comfortable place. This is sort of a temporary. My old studio is you wish you could have seen it. It was like a 40 style thing, and it was awesome. This is a temporary location. We're eventually going to put a studio outside, a separate. But this room is working great, and we're not in like a real hurry, because apparently you can't get wood anymore. there's no wood left or plastic. They're not making anything, and you can't get it for 18 weeks. So this room is so I got there's some toys. I got some toys on my shelf over there. It's just yeah, this is where I like to hang and create, and nobody's allowed to come in when I'm in here. So
that's awesome. And it's great to see. Obviously, I can tell. Obviously, you love all these characters, but with Arishem in particular, I know I mentioned finding his voice before, but when you have voiced all these iconic characters, obviously Marvel is going to know that you've done a lot of big name characters. You've done characters for them before. What about that specific voice for Arishem? Was that a long process for you to find the right sort of tone for him, or was it, as you said, all about keeping that anger under control and making him a very calm, sort of centered being, really?
Well, I didn't want to go too particular, the size of the character. First of all, you don't want to go sort of to type and start playing him. It's sort of we try, like I used my normal voice, and then we played around a bit, and then I sort of gave them a bit of a bit of my British heritage, and so Cersei in here, Cersei, and what they do with the sound, is pretty amazing. But it was sort of, we took a minute to kind of dial it in, to find the correct tone and placement, because I knew they were going to futz with it a little bit, and so I had to. It couldn't be, too low, because the character's already large anyway. So it's roundabout, my own voice, Cersei, very very calm, Cersei. It begins, it's sort of, we found it here, and they took it and they ran with it, essentially, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's I could sort, when I heard it, I could hear the elements were still there with my voice, but it just sounded so good what they did with it. It was just, it was very cool. So when there's going to be some processing on it, you have to be very careful about your performance, because you don't want to do anything So yeah, so that's another line. Knowing technically what they're going to do, you can kind of go, okay, well, I need to keep the voice sort of placement a little higher. I need to, still have the emotion in there, but I can't get too emotive, and I can't. It's yeah, it's basically like, okay, walking the tightrope. Okay, that's how it felt.
Incredible. And as I mentioned, you have done so many Marvel characters in the past, whether it's Jarvis or Professor X,
Oh,
Mysterio.
look at him, looking right at him. Look at, hang on, don't go away. I have another toy. Look at, sitting right here. Yes, based on Paul Bettany. Of course, they brought me for Vision. And there he is, my Vision toy. And yeah, I played. And what's the other one? That's the one when I met Stan Lee when he was in on Avengers Assemble, and he came in. He was a guest star, and Mark Hamill was in that day, and I was playing Venom von Simo. Yes, it was wonderful to play that character. Died an incredible death, and so when Stan was in, he was meeting everybody, and he says, David Kaye, who are you in this? I said, I'm Vision, and I also play I was Jarvis. He's, oh yes, and I mentioned Zemo. He goes, oh, Zemo, give me a bit of Zemo. And I go, yes, Mr. Stan Lee, it's David Kaye playing Zemo. And he's, oh, very good, yeah, So yeah, it was pretty cool. Stan Lee's font on his script was like that big, and I think Roger Craig Smith made a comment about how. Now look at the size of the font, because he'd gone by that time. And Mark Hamill says, we should all be so lucky to have font that big one day. Yes, that is right. It's 93. But yeah, there's been a ton of fun. I had a chance to play Iron Man many years ago, and that was one of the first comics I'd purchased. I had Iron Man 3. I don't know whatever happened to it. I probably sold it to go to college. Idiot. But yes, a chance to play a bunch of other characters and video games, Wolverine and all those back in the day. So it's been, yeah, it's I mean, literally, come on, it's a dream come true. I didn't go to school for this, I'll tell you that. I was in radio, and that's, I guess, where a lot of it started. But yeah, it's fun, man.
Oh, well, as I say, I can only imagine. Of course, those characters, they are more well-known than Arishem, but of course they're in these animated projects which have tons of fans, of course, like Avengers Assemble. But then you compare it to the MCU, this billions of dollar blockbuster franchise. So for you, it must just feel just incredible to be part of that now. And you are part of that MCU family with Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., and you've obviously got some sort of future as a character. I certainly hope so. So that must just, for you as an actor, got to be pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Again, I said it a few times before, surreal. It's funny. You really don't know where, when you get an audition and when you get to read for something, you really don't know where it's going to go. And sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to nail this. All right, here we go. I got, and then, nothing. And then you get a little paragraph that says, well, he's a robot. But we want him to we don't want him to sound too robotic. He has a personality, and it's like that much. And then you had some dialogue, and then this happens, and we're still doing it. Like how many years now? It's we're coming up on 20 in the next little while. So you just don't know where it's going to go. And when things come through to read for some projects that are very secretive, like these sorts of things, they are not even named, and the characters' names are completely different. So you don't really have no idea. It's kind of tough. You get things sometimes because that this is not the name. You can only guess what this could be for. And even my agents don't even know what it's for. All they say, well, this is a big deal. They're only bringing in so many people. And so you go, okay, well, gosh. And so they're all the training you've had and experience you've had, and all the stuff like improv skills, and just, again, being on the planet for a while, and so you have an idea what it might be, and you attack the script and you have fun with it. Again, my younger me wouldn't really know how to navigate that. There's just no way. There's no way. And that just comes from experience, just over and over every day doing it, and then reading for stuff, and then booking stuff, and then working. So now you sort of have an idea of where the parameters are, and how big can I go with this character, and who he might be, or what's the scene. So you play the scene. You play, like, what's going on in the scene. As an actor, that's all you can do. You don't know what else is going on. So there's where some training comes in and experience comes in to know how to navigate that. And there's a lot of X factors too. There's a lot of, new voice actors coming up. And people say voice actors, but you're an actor. Because you have to. Yeah. You have to make sure, it has to be real. The character has to have a soul, a living, breathing, no matter if this character is cartoony or he's an Arishem character, he has history. He has a, does he have a heart? I don't know, a stone heart. But he is a being, he exists. And so you have to put yourself into that. You obviously can't sound like you're reading something, but it has to be just like you and I are talking, because we don't know what we're going to say from one second to the next. We have a conversation. No one knows what's coming next. And for every character you do, and for every take you do, it has to be fresh all the time. It has to say, this is something new you've never said this before. So that is always in the back of your mind as a performer, and bringing these characters to life. Like, this character has to have, there's history, so when you put yourself into a character, it's not just reading the lines and doing a funny voice or doing a voice. You got to think about all that stuff, put it in the blender, and then it's got to be real. It's got to breathe and live and have a history. You know what I mean? And I love stuff like that. I love the challenge of creating something that has a soul and something else, and it's not me. I dig that about this business. It's neat.
I bet. And okay, you mentioned earlier the secrecy with a project like this one with Marvel Studios, and I think the fact that you were voicing Arishem only actually came out, I think, about a week before the film was released, when the production notes were put online by Disney. But when you were actually working on the film, I take it, did you know that you were playing Arishem? Did they show you concept art, or were you going in blind?
Oh yeah, I knew. By that time, when you're cast, you go, okay, here's what you're doing. I go, oh, okay, all right, wow, okay. And then you get the dialogue, and then you're like, oh, there's quite a bit here. Okay, so they keep you in the dark for a reason, because of internet and that's come along the last 20 years. I got in trouble once with these guys, and there was actually 2 phone calls in one day. And I always tell this story as a lesson to those who forget. You're invited to a convention, you're at a con, you're excited. I went to my home country in Canada, and then I'm in Toronto. I go, all right, hey, Mr. Kaye, what are you working on these days? Oh, we're of course Ratchet Clank is coming back. And I go, well, all right, and we're working on Commissioner Gordon for Arkham Asylum, and Arkham, Batman Arkham, and it was one of the, and they're like, oh, that's great. I didn't think anything of it, and it was like a few months later. This is quite a while ago, by the way. It's a Friday morning. It's a beautiful sunny day in Los Angeles, and I'm driving around Toluca Lake, and the phone rings, and it's my buddy who's from Insomniac. Hey, what's up? Hey, he says, hey, listen, if you got a second? I go, yeah. I thought, we're gonna do another game, or we're gonna do something. Well, he said, gotta tell you, man, it's kind of you outed us. And I go, what? He said, yeah. I said, that we're not supposed to announce the game because they're going to do a big announcement, overseas, and they're going to. I go, and your heart drops. You're like, what? And then it's based on somebody shot a video of me saying something, and I didn't. And then I go, okay. Well, then I called it. I did a big apology and the whole thing, and because it's it's a serious sort of thing. You have to be careful. And then a phone rings an hour later, and it's Warner Brothers. And my agent, DK, so we got a problem. And I go, oh, so a great Friday morning in Southern California became the worst morning in Southern California. And that happened, I think probably 7, 8, I don't know, 8 years ago, so quite a while ago. And again, you're at a convention, you're excited, you say something, it's like, So from that moment on, That's it. I'm not saying nothing to nobody about anything. Yeah, and I'm not the only one, but it's a hard lesson to learn because there's a lot of people depending on you to keep your mouth shut. And it wasn't just me. There was some concept art was leaked and things like that. So it happens, and it still happens because of the internet and instant this. And so you have to be real careful because it's a serious deal, and you don't want to, piss anybody off. So that was the last time that somebody asked me, "What are you working on?" Nothing. I'm not busy at all. I'm just hanging out. That's pretty much my answer.
After that, I'm
gonna go play. I'm playing tennis. That's it.
And you mentioned Clank a couple of times. I've been playing those Ratchet and Clank games as long as I can remember. Rift Apart came out, I think it was earlier this year, wasn't it? I thought, phenomenal game. I loved it. Cool. Are you hoping more on the horizon? I'm still amazed they haven't made another film.
I'm always hopeful. Whatever. I will. Insomniac was one of those. Ted Price and everybody all the way down is just amazing, and they've been great to me since the very beginning, and I've had a good time with them, and I would work with them, and of course in a heartbeat, work with anybody in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm a contract worker, of course. If somebody reaches out, I'm like, I'm in. And personally, I'd love the stories to continue. That's not up to me, of course, but as far as voicing characters, and sometimes with Megatron and things like that, and Transformers, people get very so, well, you should be this and that. So look, I'm just honored I got it for a minute. I got a chance to inhabit a character like that. These are iconic characters that part of franchises in the MCU, and to voice Arishem. I'm just honored to be able to be asked to play and to inhabit that character for that time. There's been my good buddy Eric Bauza is the voice of Bugs Bunny, and Mel Blanc and Eric is like the new Mel Blanc, and he's a Filipino Canadian. I mean, it's awesome. So you just don't know. You are honored just to inhabit that character, to be given the chance for that time, and that's what it is. That's the business. I think things come and go, and be thankful and grateful that you had a moment. And so in a case like, with these characters, and it's rare that you create them from nothing and they're still happening many years later. It's a rarity that they continue on, yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
That's what I have to say about that.
I'd love them to make another film, because I know you did the animated film a few years ago, but it feels now with Sonic the Hedgehog, obviously a bit of live action mixed with animation, so much potential for those Ratchet and Clank characters.
Man, I still have the poster down there. See the poster still down? Yeah, cool. I was more blown away by the fact that I never thought I'd get my name on a movie poster ever. I thought, wow, yeah, but there it is. James Arnold Taylor, David Kaye, and Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, we were not famous enough to sell the tickets, but we got our names on the on the movie poster, and I'm just thrilled about that, because that's another thing that's pretty cool.
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen, but there's actually an Eternals TV spot doing the rounds. I think it's on Marvel's YouTube, where Arishem has his hands out from the scene at the end of the film, and it has #1 movie in the world. So where his hands are. So that's pretty cool as well.
Send me a copy. If you have send me a link. Send me a copy. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm a nerd like everybody else. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And I know, of course, you're on Cameo, which I always love to speak to actors who are on Cameo, because I know that fans really dig particularly actors who do a lot of voiceover work. They love getting these different characters from them. So I was wondering if maybe you'd like to tell our readers a little bit about what they can expect from that, because I'm sure you're going to be getting some Arishem requests as well now.
Yeah, I have to have a phrase. I've got to remember the phrase, a couple of phrases for Arishem, Susie. But I mean, obviously, this has been kind of fun. We come up with these for the Megatron and Transformers Beast Wars stuff that, the little buttons. Really, awesome. And they're kind of a big deal on the store, on the webpage at davidkaye.com. I'm doing a sales pitch. Listen to me. And there's some other big, but they're fun. The Cameo is kind of a neat thing. I'm doing a series that I started in anime. I don't know any much anime much at all, but they asked me back as Sesshomaru for this new Yashahime series I did in Inuyasha. That was one of the first things I did when I was living in Vancouver in Canada, and that's still going. And you know, people can get autographed pictures, but they asked me to do some, you know, happy birthday in Sesshomaru's voice, or Megatron's voice, or from TF Animated, you know, Optimus Prime's voice, and I get a lot of Clank requests as well. And it's kind of fun because I before this stupid pandemic, I used to love going to the conventions because it was a chance to meet the fans, and because without the fans, without these conventions, without yourself, without we don't exist. We don't have a job. So I think it's very important to meet people and to be, you know, give them a moment of your time. And I enjoyed that. I pulled out of a couple this year. One, my father was having knee surgery, and I just didn't feel comfortable yet. You know, and it's still raging around the world. So it's kind of a drag. But I am scheduled for one coming up in the new year in March, and that'll be the first one. I think hopefully things are a little bit better by then. So without being in person, Cameo is the next best thing to sort of, it's a thank you. It's a way to give back, make someone's day. I've had some wonderful little notes of people who was just, one who was a nurse on the front lines, and she was just feeling, you know, shattered and depressed. And I can imagine, and she's trying to do her job. And so I just gave her a little pep talk and a character that she loves, and, you know, it made her day. And I felt like I helped in some way, you know, make her day. And that's, it's pretty neat. I didn't think anybody want me to, when they approached me, I thought, why would they want me to do anything? Yeah, well, oh, Mark Hamill's, yeah, but he's Mark Hamill. You know, come on. But it's nice. It's a way to give back and communicate and sort of be present in people's lives. And because it's been a tough couple of years, man. Let's face it. It's like, Jesus, anything to bring a smile is okay.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure, obviously, in our piece, I'll link to your Cameo and to your social media. And just a couple of final quick questions for you. I know, obviously, we talked a little bit about Arishem's future, but I can tell you're a comic book fan. You mentioned, obviously, Iron Man, one of the first comics you bought. But if you could pick moving forward for which characters you'd like to interact with as Arishem, obviously, you get that awesome scene with Gemma Chan as Cersei, but any particular Marvel characters you'd love to cross paths with if you were booking this thing?
You mean as any character?
Yeah, just Marvel, any characters from the MCU, really.
I mean, Kevin Conroy does such an amazing Batman. I would never want to do Batman after him. And I've always loved Batman because of the darkness of it. You know, there's a dark, and I kind of dig that sort of thing. I love that. I've always liked Superman, and I could never do Spider-Man. I'm too old for that. I'm too old of a soul for Spider-Man. But Superman, I've always, you know, liked that universe, and that's of course DC. But Marvel, I really enjoyed Professor X when we were doing X-Men Evolution. I loved that cast, and I really enjoyed being Professor X in that series. There's some outtakes out there with that. I don't know if they ever exist. We had some good ones, but just, you know, Patrick Stewart. I know that they were a big fan of Patrick Stewart, and I just kind of did my version of me doing whatever, and they hired me for it, which was great. So yeah, I love the X-Men. I love the Avengers, and a shout out to some of the, you know, the voices, and Fred Tatasciore is just the iconic Hulk. You know, Roger Craig Smith is the iconic Captain America. It's been some good times, man. I think it comes down to being able to work with your peers and the people that make you laugh is a gift and a joy, no matter what. And I've been fortunate to be in casts that have been just such a thrill and a joy to work with, like laughter and screwing around, and it's just so nice. The worst part of the pandemic is, having to do things on your own, and there isn't that. There's a series coming out that I'm in. It's very, very, very funny, very, very irreverent. I cannot tell you what it is, but it's going to be dropping at some point, or probably early in the new year. And we couldn't do table reads. It was all on Zoom table reads on the computer. There's still tons of laughter, but it's just not the same as being in a room with this. The worst part of these last 2 years is not being able to be in in a studio with your friends doing these characters. One of the last last live sessions I did, it was just by myself because it brought me in. It was the Justice League, and the character that I was playing was Vandal Savage, and he's I had to come in and replace a voice actor who had passed on, and that was very difficult to do. And we're able to get his voice print, and I was fortunate enough to be able to come in and do Vandal, and that's another one of my, as a kid, Vandal Savage is a DC comic. He's around forever. He's kind of like an Arishem in a way, but because he keeps existing throughout. So just the opportunity to play these characters at all is just a thrill. I'm babbling. I'm sorry. I go on and on.
Cool.
Go on and on. Listen to me. Go on and on. You can edit this all out.
No,
edit me out of the whole thing.
And I appreciate such thoughtful answers. And I said, just a couple of last quick questions. If you could, as Arishem, choose to share the screen with any of these other Marvel heroes, I know the stage is being set for the Eternals, but any of the Avengers as an actor that you would love to see yourself up on screen interacting with as Arishem? Maybe Arishem versus Captain America, Spider-Man, so many possibilities.
Oh my gosh. Boy, that is a difficult question. Man, I'm not sure. I mean, I keep going to the X-Men or the Avengers. I think one of the Avengers for sure, because of my experience and history with Assemble. I would be great to kind of interact with some of that team.
Yeah.
The Hulk, maybe me and Freddie.
Well, I know I'm keeping my fingers crossed to maybe see him cross paths with Galactus should he ever be introduced.
Oh, there you go. See, you're thinking big. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And one final question for you. I'd love to know, obviously, this film was delayed because of the pandemic. And as you mentioned, some little bits did leak out. I think we got some promo art of Arishem at some point in the Eternals. But for you as an actor, what was the hardest thing about keeping this role secret and having to deal with that MCU, Marvel Studios secrecy for the past, well, however long it's been since you actually got to work on the project?
It wasn't difficult at all, because, you don't, until they actually tell you officially you're in the film, I mean, I'm David Kaye. I mean, there's a lot of star celebrities out there that they could easily, decide to, well, let's get, so-and-so bring. So I've learned to kind of just keep my excitement tempered until it's there's proof that I've made the film or that I'm in the thing. Because you can easily be, replaced. So I'm just grateful that they kept me around and, in the film, because there was really no guarantees when you're, being a voice actor, sort of, for a large movie is precarious. And when I did the movie Up, I couldn't say anything about that because there were still no guarantees that I was going to be in the film or even have a credit. But that's just the way it is with the voice actor sometimes. So it was easy for me just to keep it, on the down low and keep it quiet, and until I actually was able to say something. Even I couldn't say anything personally until after the movie came out. It was, you have to be very, very careful.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, as I said, we didn't even actually know that Arishem was going to have a voice. As I said, until those production notes came out a couple of weeks or a week before the film came out, we didn't actually know that was going to be the case. I think everyone assumed he'd be silent. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I get it, and I think it's very cool what they did, and I understand why we couldn't say anything. So yeah, it's pretty neat. It's actually kind of fun to keep it secret.
Well, I know, as I said, I thought your performance, big fan of your work regardless, but I thought your performance in this one was just fantastic. Very, very excited to see what comes next, and really appreciate how generous you've been with your time. So thank you, David.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.